Good morning. It is Monday, the 17th of November, 2025. I am Graham Hughes. You're watching Morning Brew on Politics Social. Just time to say hello to everyone in the chat. Well, most of the people. We've got Lost Missionary, we've got Black Dot Dot, we've got Angry Pagan, we've got Chris C, we've got UA Put, we've got, who else? We've got Sid, Martin, Lost, Gallifrey and Ren, we've got Miss Paula Thomas, we've got L in there, we've got Diz in there, we've got Colin, we've got Liam, we've got anyone else I've not said? I'm not sure. Martin, again. Hello, everybody. If you'd like to join our friends in the chat here, all you need to do is hit the subscribe button and wait for approximately 1 minute, and you'll be able to join the chat with everybody else. Come on, join the chat for once. Don't be a lurker. Be a blurker? I don't think that's actually a word. Hello. Today we're going to be talking about Asylum again, which we talked about yesterday, but yesterday was the whole thing of just talking about why we need people to come from other countries, why we need immigration. Today we're going to be focusing on asylum in particular because, oh my God. Labour are tightening up the, are tightening up the rules on asylum. So our new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, is talking about this she's calling it a tightening of the regulations. It's not. It's a fundamental restructuring of refugee rights in Britain. This is going to be the biggest change since World War II, and it's going to create insecurity, instability, and legal chaos. Is it workable? Is it moral? Does it solve any real problems? Or is this just political theatre aimed at, I don't know. I don't even want to say refuck voters, because this isn't for refuck. This is for like Nigel Farage. This is like that. It's just like the entire apparatus of the Labour Party has just come together and gone, hey, let's do something for Nigel. Let's do something to cheer Nigel Farage up. So at the heart of the plan, instead of getting 5-year protection when you get to this country, now you'll have 2.5-year renewals. Refugees will have to reapply every 2.5 years to stay. This creates a perpetual limbo. People cannot plan lives, careers, mortgages, education, and also how can you do a 3-year degree, if you might get chucked out of the country after 2.5 years? How can you do a job that takes 2 years to train up if there's a good chance that 6 months after you finally, fully trained to do that job and then can train somebody else, that's the important thing, you get kicked out of the country? Automatic removal if your country is deemed safe. Is it safe for the person? Is Jamaica safe for the Windrush generation who came over as children, who were deported back to Jamaica? A place where they knew nobody? A place where they didn't speak the local language? What? Didn't have a job? Didn't have anywhere to live? Is that safe? Sending people over to places that are safe, as in there's no government there that is actively murdering its citizens for sport. But yeah, is it safe for the people going over? Raises the fundamental issue. What happens when you remove people who have been here for 15 years? What if they have British-born children? So after 17.5 years, right, because it's going to take 20 years now to get permanent residency, but after 17.5 years, you can be deported. So what, your kids going to be doing the GCSEs, are they? If you've got children. Or maybe they just expect you to have no kids. Maybe they expect women in their 20s to come here and just wait till they're too old to have kids before they can actually go, okay, I'm settled now, I can have kids. Oh, no, actually, I can't, because biology says no. And what if the safety declaration is politically driven? What if a Farage government gets in the future and just declares every fucking country in the world safe? This is absolutely crazy. Like, this is the maddest shit that Labour have done so far, and they've done a lot of mad shit. This is worse than the winter fuel debacle. This is, and please don't take offense by me saying this, but I genuinely think this is worse than something that they did, which was absolutely, horrific, which was to go after disabled people. I think this is even worse, because in this situation, you've got terror going down the line. It's not, this is terror to last for 20 years. A tap on the shoulder. You got to go home now. We've declared Eritrea safe. We've declared North Korea safe. We've declared the Democratic Republic of Congo safe. And Labour keeps citing Denmark. Oh, they did this in Denmark. The centre-left government in Denmark, they did this and it got down their numbers. Their numbers went down, yeah. Listen, dickheads, not you, talking to Labour here. Listen. Denmark, still part of the Dublin Agreement. We're not. The one thing that could actually drive down the numbers of people coming here, because when we were part of the Dublin Agreement, no one was coming here in a boat. They built the model around an EU system that Britain no longer participates in. And Britain cannot replicate it without inventing an entirely new return infrastructure or re-signing up to the Dublin Agreement, which we can do. Because there are countries like Iceland and Liechtenstein and Switzerland and Norway who are signatories to the Dublin Agreement who are not part of the EU. We could do that. So who's going to be affected by this? It's anyone arriving by irregular routes like boats, lorries, etc. Also applies retrospectively to those already in the asylum system. Yeah, great. The real effects of this is going to be, there's going to be, for 2 decades, 20 years before settlement, there'll be no stability, no long-term work prospects, no access to normal financial life. How can you get a mortgage? Can't. Mortgages, renting. Would you rent out to someone? Would you rent your house if you were a landlord? Would you rent your house out to someone who might have to leave in a moment's notice because the government decides that the country that they fled from is no longer dangerous? And then the money you've got to have to spend on sussing that out, on doing those reviews. We've got a backlog of refugees having their first review. Never mind their second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. And what about children born here? Like I said, like a child could be deported with their parents. That's just, schools disrupted, GCSEs abandoned, friendships severed. It's a direct repeat of Windrush logic. And then you've also got the ending of statutory duty to provide housing. This was introduced in 2005 to prevent destitution. Labour wants to return this as a discretionary power. Not just for Labour now, but for parties in the future who might be in charge of the government. Do you see the problem? Do you see the problem? And the consequences of this, asylum seekers could be made homeless. Those with legal right to work but no real access to employment because of bureaucratic barriers and employer hesitancy to take anyone who might be kicked out of the country at a moment's fucking notice. They'll end up falling into poverty, creates conditions rife for exploitation and sex trafficking within our country. And then you've got the criteria for removing support, working illegally, minor disruption in accommodation, non-compliance with removal directions. Entire families could lose support because of a single accusation of any of these things. An accusation, and you have to prove it. And also, Ukrainian refugees are also losing their protection. Labour's admitted that Ukrainians here on temporary arrangements will also face return, which, there's thousands of Ukrainian children already fully integrated into UK schools, overturning the Homes for Ukraine expectation of stability and safety here. And there's a huge breach of trust. The hosts who opened their homes believing the UK was offering a genuine refuge to people coming from Ukraine. And here's the thing. A fifth of Ukraine has been annexed by the fucking Russians. Well, they're taking it over. Not officially annexed. It's not recognised by any international law. It's just recognised by the bloody Russians, isn't it? But, if you're from Mariupol in the east of the country, how the fuck are you going to go back? You're not. You're going to have to go to another part of a very big country and try and start a new life there. After starting a new life here for 4 or 5 years. Can they stay here till the kids have finished school at least? Or here's an idea. If people want to stay, let them stay. We need immigration. The people are getting older. There's a massive glut of baby boomers, the blamey boomers, because they like to blame everyone else but themselves. Not all blamey boomers, but a lot of them. Jesus. But yeah, who's going to look after them? Who's going to look after these people? How are we supposed to operate this system? Because you know what's going to happen, don't you? When we can't afford to look after the baby boomers, that we're just going to do a raid on them. We're going to take their jewellery. Like they're talking about taking the jewellery of refugees. They're going to take their jewellery. Keep your wedding ring, everything else we'll have to pay for your treatment. It's already happening. If you get put into a home, it's $2,000 a week. Good luck paying that. No, you got to lose your house. The last few years of your life to just keep you alive, because there's a bunch of members of the House of Lords who've decided to bog down Kim Leadbeater's private members bill to allow for euthanasia in extenuating circumstances, which I think they should. But there's 6 members of the Lords who are like, no, we're gonna bog this down. We're gonna, there's overwhelming public support for this, and MPs voted for it in a free vote. And the House of Lords, who are not elected, are going, no, gonna mess this up. But yeah, getting off the topic there a little bit. Miss Paula Thomas, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. That's a very generous super chat to start the week. My professor at university had arrived here from Nazi Germany at 5 years old. You can read his family story under Wikipedia under Kurt Hirsch. Tell me what a refuck government would do to him and his family. Well, they'll send him back to the gas camps, wouldn't they? That's what they'll do. Or the death camps. Because that's their MO, Foreigners can come here if they're rich or we want to fuck them. That's what Trump says. That's what Farage says. If they can marry a foreigner, that's okay. They're allowed to. You're not. But yeah, they want to decide whether people can come into this country or not based on their wealth and their attractiveness. Great. What a wonderful world it could be. So this is like this. They're also talking about like an AI age assessment, to use AI to decide if someone's over 18. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? What? AI gets everything wrong. Can't even count to fucking 6. And AI bias could incorrectly classify children as adults and adults as children. But this could lead to minors being placed in adult accommodation or detention. And right-wing rights groups are warning of serious child safeguarding failures. And they're also talking about reforming Article 3 of the Human Rights Act about torture and inhumane treatment. And this is going to... the European Convention of Human Rights. Article 3 is about torture and inhuman treatment. They want to narrow the interpretation aimed at making deportations easier. They want to narrow the interpretation to make it easier. They also want to raise. This raises questions about compatibility with the UK commitments under international law. But another point they're trying to rewrite is Article 8, which is the right to family life. And judges must prioritise public safety over family unity. Only immediate family counts, so extended family ties are being erased. Children born here will gain no additional rights if parents face removal. So we could have thousands of wards of the state in 10 years' time or 15 years' time. Thousands of them that we have to look after, that we have to pay for their accommodation and their food every day out of our taxes. Or their parents could just stay in the country and look after them. And they also want to roll back the Modern Slavery Act, which is designed to curb to roll this back would curb last-minute claims, but it risks removing real protections from real trafficking victims. And you know what? I'd rather one person get through who's not actually supposed to, but 100 people actually get the care and the support that they need and the asylum that they need. I'd much rather have that system. You're always going to have freeloaders. You're always going to have people that are taking the piss. You are always going to have that. There's nothing new, nothing, it's like saying, we should get rid of the NHS because there's some people out there who are hypochondriacs. So, let's just let everyone fucking die. What's this? What do you suggest as a genuine fix, SBJ? So, first of all, we rejoined the Dublin Agreement. Secondly, we set up an asylum processing centre in Calais. Thirdly, we set it up like we do with the visa system, where you can apply from anywhere in the world over the internet for asylum. You need to go to the embassy or the High Commission, the British High Commission, in your area. You need to give your fingerprints, give your age, give all your details, and then that's giving you a number, and then you apply using that number for asylum. And that is linked to your name. It is linked to your details. It's linked to your fingerprints. If you turn up in the country and we take your fingerprints and they don't add up, and it's hang on, no, we haven't granted asylum to you. You're somebody else. Or if someone comes here after being told no, they can't have asylum here, and we take their fingerprints and we go, oh, hang on, you've already applied to stay here under a different name coming from another country, but we know who you are because we've got your fucking fingerprints, so we can send them back from whence they came. And also with the returns agreement that we would have with the rest of the EU, we could send people back who had already applied for asylum in another EU country. And if that EU country had rejected them, we could send them back to France. This is why there were no boats coming over from Europe before 2017, before the Brexit vote in 2016 and the carnival of calamity that happened after that. People weren't coming in boats because there was no point. They get caught, they get taken back to France. There was no point. That was a deterrent. This shit isn't a deterrent. This shit is just shy, and it's just causing more problems for the future. And it's not going to put anyone off coming here. It's not going to put anyone coming. It's not going to put anyone off coming here. It's a bit like the Tories with their Rwanda policy. 1% of asylum seekers might get sent to Rwanda, maybe. We spent, what was it, 700 million on that project? How many refugees did we get over there? What, 2 went voluntarily? So there's a single appeal. So asylum seekers will only be able to raise all grounds in one appeal. If they miss something that they should have said, tough luck. And then you've got the practical impact of this. Encourages rushed legal representation, far higher risk of wrongful removals. And the courts are going to be overstuffed again with single appeals, which break into lots of different parts to them. And there's going to be the only sort of positive thing of this, as far as I'm concerned, is the idea that there are going to be safe and legal routes set up. Students, skilled workers, community sponsorship. But this is going to lead to no permanent settlements. This is still going to be temporary. Routes are capped and the numbers are going to be tiny. It does nothing to deter people coming here anyway, who are not going to be part of this system. And smuggler gangs adapt far more quickly than governments. And, this idea that you're going to brand your country in a negative way and make people think, oh, well, we don't want to go to Britain because they're all horrible there. It rarely shifts refugee flows. It just rarely does. So the limited number of safe routes that they're opening, I find this ridiculous. Open them up. Just say, if you want to apply for asylum here from anywhere, you can. We've already got that system in place for visas. So don't say it can't be done. Don't say too many people will apply, because you make them pay. You pay whatever it costs to do the bureaucracy and all that shit, to pay someone to look at the case and say yay or nay. But then you'll have the evidence there. You'll have everything that you need to hand to say this person doesn't get asylum here, or this person does get asylum here. And then they don't have to come across in a small boat. They can fly over here if they want to, get the EasyJet. A lot of Ukrainian refugees just flew here from Poland. The refugees who stayed with us, they flew in from Poland. No leaky boats required. So this is all. God, it's so depressing. I'm sorry to depress everyone on a Monday morning. Actually, it's all right. Blue skies. It's all right. It's going to get cold this week, by the way. So wrap up warm, please. Why is this happening now? Well, because Labour's polling is collapsing in reform-leaning seats, and Farage is claiming that Labour is copying reform. But Tommy Robinson's made up. He's tweeted that this is all great, and he's smashed the Overton window. He said, "Nice." And then you got this internal Labour panic after recent internal warfare and obviously the winter fuel fiascos and them going after the disabled people and then also going after trans people. And you got this internal rebellion brewing. You've got ministers who are privately uncomfortable. You've got MPs like Rachel Maskell and Brian Leishman speaking out. We've got fears of another Windrush level scandal. And Labour claims it wants unity, but it's creating policies that are guaranteed to increase division and radicalise resentment. And then we got the practicality of it, which is, for me, the frustrating thing. You're talking about endless bureaucracy, 2.5 years, every 2.5 years, right? They're gonna review the cases of every refugee living here. And as we have over 100,000 refugees coming every year, that is a lot of reviews. That is a fuckload of reviews that you've got to do. And no infrastructure for mass returns. We've got no deals, no pathways, no logistical capability. We've got destitution possibility. If we're going to say we don't have to, these refugees have no right to accommodation. Well, you're going to have homeless, unsupported asylum seekers, making it unsafe for everyone. Then you got the economic damage, the long-term insecurity, preventing workforce participation, and also you got the refugees being kept in limbo, meaning they can't contribute to society fully as they would do if they were just treated as any other immigrant who came here and worked and paid tax and stayed for as long as they were, at least they would know that they've got at least 5 years or 10 years or 15 years here, without having to be, yeeted out your job after 2.5 years. And the Windrush here, the Windrush parallels are the key overlap here. The people who are going to be legally here for years will wake up one morning and be told that they're now illegally here. And I will say that yesterday, the Home Secretary talked about people using illegal methods of getting into the country. And well, it's not technically illegal, because if they're refugees, they're genuine refugees, they can use any form of transport to get to this country. If you're in a shipwreck and you turn up on a piece of driftwood to this country, it's not like we can say, "Oh, sorry, you arrived in irregular means. We're going to throw you back in the sea." It doesn't work like that. Anyway, so people at the moment they get declared that their presence here is illegal. You're talking about families being separated. Obviously, you are. You're talking about people being removed from their jobs, housing, bank accounts, and this plan creates an intentional systemic version of the same failure that they're trying to deal with right now. This is built into the policy design to fuck it up for years in the future. And if someone's lived here for 15 fucking years and they've built friends, colleagues, carers, NHS staff, classmates, they built a life for themselves. They're part of the national fabric, and deporting them is not. Deporting them is a cruel and unfair punishment. They're paying tax in this country. They're working. They're not committing crime. I mean, if people commit crimes, then fair enough. Fucking deport them. I don't care. But if they haven't committed a crime and they just got their head down and they're just working like the vast majority of asylum seekers do, what's the harm? We need them. We need people to come from other countries. What is the logic here? This is not restoring order. This is just cruelty. This is just cruelty for votes from people who've left Labour and they're not coming back. They're too far up Nigel Farage's arse. As far as I can see, and we'll get into a discussion about this, but as far as I can see, this asylum overhaul is legally chaotic. It's economically counterproductive. It's morally repugnant. It's administratively unworkable, and it's politically cowardly. If your goal is to stop the boats, harming refugees who are already here does absolutely nothing. If your goal is to stop Farage, all you're doing with this is you're copying his ideas. You're legitimising him. You're saying, yeah, well, he's got a point, hasn't he? Hasn't Nigel Farage got a point? Why didn't you put up a fucking billboard, Labour, that said, yeah, we think Nigel Farage has got a point? You daft twats. Are they fucking idiots? We got idiots in charge of this country. I'm sick of this shit. Starmer needs to go. I'm with Clive Lewis. I'm sick of this shit. Get rid of him. I was holding back. I was saying, well, we'll get rid of Morgan McSweeney and see what happens. Don't want to create instability. Blah, 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 blah. Nah, fuck that. Fuck him. It's fucked up. This is fucked. This is absolutely fucked up beyond all recognition. I'm really, really, disappointed is just putting it too mildly. I'm fucking disgusted with what Labour's done. Do you know what I mean? Like, they have just pushed all of their natural supporters away. Who's left? People maybe who always vote Labour no matter what. What's that, 15% of the population? Great. And what's happening in the next election? We're going to get a fucking... If Labour continue like this, we're going to get a fucking reform government. And at that point, I'm fucking leaving the country and I'm a fucking cisgender male. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to get into the chat. Yes, freezing this morning. Can't afford to put the heating on though, says Michael. I'm sorry, Michael. That's really shit. It is just so grim that back in the day people could afford heating and we can't anymore. And it's 2025. Why haven't we moved forward? Why aren't we better? Why aren't things cheaper? And you got Nigel Farage going, it's too expensive because the push towards net zero. No, that's not it, you soggy-faced twat. The reason why it costs so much to heat people's homes is because a lot of our homes are heated by gas. And gas is the most expensive commodity to heat your home with or to make energy with. Why is that? Because Putin invaded his fucking neighbour and gas prices spiked. And we set all of the prices for all of the energy that we have on the most expensive commodity, which is gas. So it's fossil fuels that's making your bill higher. If we didn't have fossil fuels, if we didn't rely on fossil fuels, our bills would be fuck all. They'd be half what they are now. And Lost Missionary says, I'm 60 years old and in shite health. It's the world my kids are inheriting. I feel for. Yeah, same here, mate. Well, I'm not 60, but yeah, I do feel for the kids. Crazy that Starmer is now to the right of the Tory leaders from Cameron to Sunak on immigration, refugee policy, and trans issues. This just says reform are right, don't vote them. Yeah, but I mean, isn't that the maddest thing that they could possibly put as an election slogan? Like that don't vote for refuck. Well, why are you doing all their policies? They've got no idea. They've got no policies. All their ideas are stupid. But we're going to carry out all their ideas. Okay. Can't process the current backlog, now doubling the number of checks required. How are they doing that? Well, it's not just doubling it, Jeff. I mean, 2.5 years, 5 years, 7.5 years, 10 years, 12.5 years, 15 years, 17.5 years, 20 years. So they're adding 8. They're gonna add eight times the number of checks. They're gonna have an 8-time multiplier on that. My God. What are they doing? What are they playing at? Again, UK plus EU combined is 520 million people. Yes, it is. I've clung on this far with my Labour membership. Yes, I know. Don't go on about it, but no, this is finally it, says Gwyneth. I'm with you, Gwyneth. I'm just like, what is the fucking point? What is the point of being part of this party that is doing these terrible things and coming out with these terrible ideas? And Chris is saying about the jewelry. Yeah, I mentioned that this is the jewelry is going to be, the rings are going to be taken from their fingers. The gold teeth are going to be ripped out on arrival on a beach in Dover to pay for their accommodation. So what are they going to do? They're going to leave all of their money, all their jewelry in Calais, aren't they? Or wherever they come across from. Probably end up in the pockets of the people smugglers. Well, I'm gonna lose them anyway. So what's the point? Or you could just let them work. You could let asylum seekers claiming asylum. You could just let them work while their asylum claim is being processed. But yeah, of course, there's always going to be loopholes. There's always going to be some people taking the piss. There's always going to be a minority of people coming across in boats who are not actual genuine asylum seekers. But as we see time and time and time again, over 3/4 of the people coming here in small boats are genuine asylum seekers, which is no surprise really, because why would you get onto one of those boats and risk death unless you were running from something? I'm sorry, Graham. I didn't realize you mentioned the jury. So yeah, I mentioned it at the start, but I was talking about other stuff. So thanks for bringing it back up again, because it's just another case of just absolute abhorrence, moral abhorrence that the Labour government are doing to try and show to the Reform voters that they're losing, that they're the people to trust. And the frustrating thing about this is it would be so easy, so much easier and cheaper, right, than having these fucking reviews and deporting people after 17 years. Think about all the fucking hoo-ha that's going to happen if they've got kids, if they've got a husband, if they've got a wife. Just think about it. I mean, it's gonna be a fucking nightmare, right? And for less money, they could set up a system with legal routes that you can apply for anywhere. They could set up an asylum processing centre in Calais, and we could rejoin the Dublin Agreement. And no one can give me a straight answer of why that can't be done. Why can't we rejoin the Dublin Agreement? There are countries that are not part of the EU that are part of that agreement. Fucking rejoin it. Because you know what else that gives us access to? Fingerprints. It gives us access to the fingerprint database for all of the refugees who have applied for asylum everywhere else in Europe, right? At the moment, if you have applied for asylum in Europe and then you come to the UK, we start again. We start again from scratch because we don't have access to that database anymore. We've given that up. We've given up that right. And so the processing could have already been done, already been paid for by some other taxpayers in some other country, and we're just replicating that. Again, so many times with kind of all this stuff, the most moral course of action is almost always the most practical and economically viable option as well. Pretty much across the board, it's like, why don't we do the thing that will save money and be the right thing to do? Give people the opportunity to apply here. They've already applied in Europe. We will know because of the Dublin Agreement. If they haven't applied in Europe, okay, we'll look into it. We can do the processing while they're in a refugee camp somewhere else. I know that sounds a bit harsh, but okay, we have a processing time of 4 months, and the refugees pay for that. They pay to be processed, right? At the moment, say a refugee is left home with everything they've got about $5,000, right? That $5,000 is going to go to people smugglers at the moment, right? And then they get here with no money, and then the case needs to go through, right? The bureaucracy, they need to look into the case. That costs money, right? And the refugee is not paying for that process. But if you do it like visas, we don't give out visas for free. We make people fucking pay. And we make people pay quite a lot of money, right? So then you could have a situation where a refugee's got $5,000, spends $1,000 on the application. We say yes. Then they can spend another, maybe £1,000 on getting them and their family, their kids, who've been granted asylum on a plane from wherever they are to the UK, or on the boat, on a big boat, on a ferry, or they can go through the Channel Tunnel to the UK, right? And then they've got a few grand to get started here in this country instead of starting from nothing, instead of starting from absolute zero, less than zero, because you can't get a full-time job that's got you can get a full-time job, but you can't get a job that you can expect to be in 10 years' time, because no one's going to give you that job because you might not be here in 10 years' time because the government's going to review your case. I'm sorry, could someone explain to me, am I missing this? Am I just seeing the negatives? Is there some kind of positive here that I'm not seeing? Paul doesn't think so. Paul says Farage can move the goalposts every time. Nothing will satiate him. It's a grift. Yep. Don't we have 12 new towns that need building, places for asylum seekers to be placed, educated, and socialized, and put their feet learning new skills useful to the economy? Yeah. Yeah. Andy says, jewelry question begs, how much can that actually be worth? This must be performative or perhaps an attempted deterrence. At a minimum, UK government needs to reciprocate the 4 freedoms with the EEA 30, Swiss-like, and a customs union Turkey-like, doable within the TCA. UK government is the obstacle. Yeah. Brett says, this is not to be insensitive, but what the fuck is the big deal about 0.7% of society? I don't care that people are different. They don't harm me, for fuck's sake. You could be talking about any group in society. Maybe you're talking about trans people there who constitute less than 1% of the population. But the big oil companies want you to be upset about the fact that trans people exist. So, whatever the big oil companies say, I guess that's what we have to do, because we've got an entire nation of people who are too fucking lazy to think for themselves. So they just get an oil company or a newspaper baron to do their thinking for them. Please tell me what to think, Daddy Murdoch. Does that mean the UK doesn't have my fingerprints as a file in another country due to reasons? Dark 4x4, I don't think so. Chris C says, does that mean the likes of Patel, Braverman and Mahmood will be expected to leave the UK as the countries their family have fled are now considered safe? That could be interesting. Isn't Braverman from Uganda? Autistic Explorer, if Reform win the next election, I wouldn't pass them to restrict movement the other way by introducing exit visas to stop UK citizens leaving. Yeah, exit visas for us normal people. It won't be for the rich. They'll be able to leave. Labour are thinking of bringing in taxes on people leaving the country, like all the countries in the G7 do. If you leave the country and you've got loads of money, then we're going to take a big chunk of that money, make it not worth people leaving. Elle says, I came out as trans the only way I could stay, not a choice, but the option has been stolen from me. Back to plan A. It's just, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to people watching this. I'm so sorry to people whose lives are affected by this. We all expected, even people who didn't vote for Labour, expected better than this. And this is what we've been left with. Like, they are flailing around like a bunch of fucking idiots. They look like a bunch of incompetents. They keep coming out with these new policies which are apparently popular in the polling, but then when you look at the polling for how many people are thinking of voting Labour next time, it's like nobody. So how's that work out? And I think what the mistake is, again, this is the mistake that they sort of made under the last leader, is they'd look into a particular policy like the nationalisation of trains, or they'd look at the more funding for the NHS, or they'd start looking at socialised, more socialist leaning policies in general. And they were quite popular with people when just in isolation. Do you like this idea? Yeah, I like that idea. But then all put together in a manifesto, no one wanted it. And what Labour needs to do, and they've still got time to do it, there's still 3 years at least till the next election. What Labour need to do, because their win, their landslide victory, was very wide but very shallow. They only won by a little bit, and it was a quirk of the system that meant they got such a massive majority. The quirk of the first past the post system. They needed to look into deepening the affection that people had for Labour when they voted for Labour. Some people held their nose and voted for Labour just to get the Tories out, which is understandable because the Tories were somehow worse, which is like, wow. But yeah, and some people just gave Labour the benefit of the doubt for once. It might have been the only time in their life they've ever voted for Labour. And instead of grabbing hold of those people and clinging on to them for everything that they're worth, they said, fuck off. Go and join Refuck. Go and join the Greens. Go and join the Lib Dems. Go on, fuck off, everyone. And what they're doing is not working. It's quite clearly not working. This isn't just some lefty in a bubble on the internet going, "Oh my god, this is," it's clearly not. We just look at the polls. There's no way you can dress them up other than Reform are doing better. Reform, an upstart fucking party, a personality cult built around the ego of one disgusting bollock-faced foghorn of ignorance, Nigel Farage, are doing way better than Labour. The Greens are overtaking Labour in some polls. I mean, you may quibble about the quality of polls, but the reality is that Labour are doing shit across all the fucking polls right now. And this, I boldly predict, will not shift things in their favour. If they want to shift things in their favour, dealing with refugees, they need to do as I suggest: get safe, legal routes set up. Get a processing centre in Calais. Rejoin the Dublin Agreement. This is not rocket science. That will stop the boats. I guarantee it. I stake my reputation on it. Because there's no point in coming over here on a small leaky fucking boat when you don't have to. When there is an option. When there is a cheaper option to apply for asylum, and 80% of people who apply for asylum in this country get it. So they're good odds. May the odds be ever in your favour. People who turn up and we don't have their fingerprints on file, you go back to Calais. That's the deal we do with France, and they have the processing done there. Or we had the processing done here, but, while the processing has been done, they sit in Calais. They don't sit here. That's it. Just wait till Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland go. The political meltdown in England isn't over yet. I can't see Scotland and Wales, and particularly Northern Ireland, leaving anytime soon, unfortunately. I can see why Scottish people might want to leave, but you know what's funny? Like, if it's not funny, it's depressing, but if the SNP had just waited to have the referendum till after the Brexit vote, I think they would have done it. I think they would have done it. But as for breaking up the United Kingdom, even for rejoining the EU, for all referendums which are going to massively change the fabric of our society, I think that there needs to be a 2/3 majority. I just do. And I know people are, that's a bit hard to get hold of, isn't it? I'm like, yeah, exactly. But otherwise, you have a situation where it's 50-50. You walk down the street and there's one person who's, like completely one way, one person is completely the other. And it just tears apart families. It just tears apart friendships. There's friends that I had that, that don't really, well, not many, but, I haven't seen them really in the last 10 years, 9 years since the Brexit vote. Because I just can't deal with the fact that they voted for something that made me poorer, made me mum poorer. Why would they do that to me mum? Sick fucks. Diminished our country. Taking away my right to live and work anywhere I want around Europe. Why would you take that away from me? I didn't take shit away from you. I turn up to your fucking house and smash the place up, did I? Gobshites. It cost them £1,000 a year because of the shit, the shit state of our economy. Because of Brexit. Direct result. We told our wealthy neighbours to fuck off, stop buying stuff from us. The fuck were we thinking? Anyway, but yeah, Northern Ireland's a tricky one because with that, we could have a really good conversation with Max on this, but there's a lot of people in Ireland that don't want Northern Ireland because they just see it as a fucking headache. They just look at it and go, do we really want, we'll welcome the people who want to be part of a united Ireland, of course. We're still going to have like a million fucking nutters who build these massive fucking pallet bonfires in July each year for some fucking reason because some foreign king came over and I don't know what did he do? Deposed the king that we had. Okay, cool. Wasn't even a fucking king. He was just a stat holder. William of Orange, William the Third. It's funny how people call William coming over here and giving it all that. I wonder if Prince William was born in this country. If Scotland had an independence campaign now, we'll be gone. There is no argument to stay, says Nuri. Well, yeah, Nuri, you're thinking that people vote logically. And yes, I'm sure that a good 45% of people in Scotland will vote logically. But then you got 55% of them who just go, I'm just going to vote what I've always voted. And they'll vote for the Union. The bloody, Rangers supporters in Glasgow. Ton Thon Phrase Do. Hello. Thank you very much for the $5. How can you talk about immigration without talking about its root cause, colonization by the UK? The migrants came from your former colonies, says Ton. Yeah. I haven't mentioned that today as much, but yesterday when I did a whole Sunday sermon about immigration, I did touch on that quite a bit and talk about our obligation to the Commonwealth in particular, 55 other countries around the world, nearly all of whom we had some kind of colonial bullshit going on where we went and robbed all their treasure. Yeah, we did that. So since they're part of the Commonwealth, I think that we should be really looking after people who are from these places, especially if these places turn into places that these people can't stay in for whatever reason. I think we should absolutely be there for this. But nowadays, you've got obviously the colonial legacy, which is why so many countries across Africa and Asia that are so impoverished at the moment. South America, Paraguay, Uruguay. Well, not Uruguay so much, but definitely Paraguay, Bolivia. Incredibly poor states. And they're poor because colonialism, because of the way the maps were drawn, because of a war with each other that was caused by the oil companies that thought there was oil in their Bolivia. So Paraguay invaded for the oil, and loads of people died, and there was no oil. And the oil companies went, oh well, never mind. But these days, you've got the impact of colonialism still being felt in many countries around the world, but also now you've got climate change, which is destroying people's habitats, destroying their homes, flooding their homes. The desertification of the Sahara, the Sahel, is off the fucking charts. People can't live there anymore. It's too hot. There's not enough rain. The climate is changing. The weather is changing in those particular areas. And there's going to be more and more refugees. But this is, as I was talking about yesterday, I did a whole hour show on why autocrats around the world love refugees and why they want to create more refugees, because refugees mean that people vote right wing. But yeah. Caranola says, we hear you, Graham. There's always comes a time when our principles based on love and empathy rise above protecting a few old friendships from our lower education days. Yeah, I just see voting for Brexit as wanton cruelty. It's taking away from so many of us, but not from the rich. In fact, if you're rich, you've probably done quite well out of Brexit because it means there's less competition. If you're rich little snot-faced crotch nuggets, your sex trophies, what they call children, your children want to go and work in a chalet in France over the summer, and you've got a bit of wodge, they can. Your kids want to go on a ski trip to Italy, you've got a bit of wodge, and they go to a private school, they totally can do that. But if you're working paycheck to paycheck and you can't even afford to, basically put food on the table most of the time, any dream of escaping to Europe, continental Europe, has been taken from you. I'm struggling to think of something about Brexit that's really fucked over the rich. Maybe the farming subsidies going. These famous Brexiters like James Dyson, privately educated, of course, who owns vast swathes of land in this country. He enjoyed getting those common agricultural policy benefits. He loved getting those subsidies. Doesn't get them anymore. Or maybe them. I don't know. But you look at the fisher folk who have had their livelihood absolutely decimated by Brexit. But, never heard children being referred to as sex trophies before, says Chris. You don't watch. You haven't been watching the show long enough. Sorry, I shouldn't call them that, should I? Get into all kinds of trouble. Okay. So yeah, I'm. Is anyone in the chat going to defend this? Is anyone in the chat going to defend this new policy for asylum seekers from Labour? I'd be amazed. I'd be absolutely fucking amazed if anyone's like, yeah. Starmer must be walking around like Vincent van Gogh as Morgan McSweeney has his other ear. Very true. You clearly haven't read the Epstein files, Chris. I don't think they're referred to as that in there either. You should see my Discord screenshots. There's some crackers on that. Lol. Yeah. The one thing that strikes me from Reform supporters, they seem to be allergic to punctuation and spelling. There's a link, I'm sure, says Andy. Yeah. Well, Trump said he loves the uneducated, didn't he? Your so-called fisher folk voted for Brexit, surely. Yeah. Because they were told there was going to be this land of milk and honey. They were going to be able to fish all the waters that are currently being fished by EU fishermen. Yeah, how'd that work out? But you know, we've got happy British fish now, according to Jacob Rees-Mogg. He actually said that in Parliament. Happy British fish. The greediest of the rich haven't changed their attitudes towards the people who work for them in over 7,000 years. The only rule of law held above them can help a society and a culture survive. Yeah. I have a habit of throwing them a bunch of punctuation saying, here, you drop these. Very good. How can anyone with an ounce of humanity defend such a cruel policy? That's going to be the interesting thing, I think, Andy. It is... no, sorry, it wasn't Andy, it was Chris. I think that's the thing, Chris, that it'd be interesting to see this week who in Labour actually appears on TV and defends this policy. I think it's going to be quite fascinating. Anyway, we're going to go over to the what's it called? The papers now. I can't do a goal. I've been trying to do a goal, but when I try and do a super chat goal, it's coming up on my screen as like blank. There's nothing coming up in the drop down menu. Something about it's not working properly. So I can set it. I can go set goal, but I don't really know what I'm setting it as because it doesn't really say. It's really, really frustrating. But yeah, I'll start the goal. I don't know how long it's going to go on for. What does it say? I'll press on it now. It says, so it's going to be half an hour and it's 10 teal super chats. But I think that's £2 super chat. I don't know. I think we had super chats yesterday and none of them came through as part of the what's it called? The totalizer. The totalizer? The goal. But yeah. Gallifreyan then, a question I raised yesterday, have the Home Secretary crossed the line of being more cruel than the Tories? Yeah. I think with that there's two things in this that I think are particularly abhorrent. One of them is taking the jewelry off people who arrive in small boats. But the other one, right, is it's not just the fact that the instability, the uncertainty. I think uncertainty is cruel. I think uncertainty is cruelty. If you don't know what's going to happen, I think that is worse than knowing for definite and being able to deal with it. In the same way that, as horrible as this sounds, and I'm sorry to anyone whose life has been affected in this way, if there's someone in your life who goes missing, especially if it's someone that you dearly love, I think that is worse than somebody in your life who you dearly love dying in any way. And I say that because at least they're dead and you can grieve them. You can go to the funeral. You can visit their grave. You've got the certainty of knowing. But that idea of not knowing whether that person's dead or alive and living with that hope that will never die in your heart, that dark hope that next knock on the front door or the next time your phone rings, it might be them. You might hear their voice. You might see them again. You might get to hold them again. That is a cruelty to inflict on someone. That is a real fucking cruelty. And that's all about uncertainty. And I'm sure there's some human psychology that goes into this. But even if it's an awful, awful result, it's better to know than to not and have things swirling around your head of what could be. And this is what they're doing. And they're not just doing it to the refugees, to the asylum seekers who've already been granted asylum. So these are genuine. We're doing this to genuine asylum seekers. We're not doing this to chancers, not doing this to people who are just coming over here for the benefits or coming over here for the I don't know, the gold-plated fucking swimming pools that we give out to asylum seekers, of course. No. We're doing it to their kids. We're doing it to the children of genuine asylum seekers. We're giving them that uncertainty, not knowing from day to day if their meal in their home is going to be their last meal in that home. If when they go to school, if that's going to be the last time they see their friends, see that boy they like, see that girl they like. From one day to the next, they don't know if that's going to be the last one. And I think that is a cruelty beyond redemption. And at this point, yes, for this particular policy, I think it is crueler than what the Tories were planning to do. I think this is worse than Rwanda, to be honest with you. I think it's more stupid than Rwanda. I think that's what annoys me the most on a sort of just because of my personality. It's the stupidity that gets me. You know what I mean? It's just like, how fucking thick are you? You think this is going to work? It's not going to work. And I hate being the guy who just sits there going, yeah, told you that wasn't going to work. Fucking call me Cassandra. Already pulled on me fucking hair out. What's this? Here's a goal. Get the papers done before 10:30 so I can go and watch the two Davies. Oh, thanks, Sleepshin. Look, Graham, we're not concerned about the goal. We are only interested in confetti. Yeah, I know. Oh, okay. Viper Scott says, Graham, that's £5 super chats. All right, that's too much. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm pretty sure that YouTube will get onto it at some point. I don't know. You're an effect enough says, I have that uncertainty with Charlie when Emma passed. The finality is strangely comforting, but Charles' condition hangs like the sword of Damocles over our heads. Yeah, mate, I completely understand. It's, yeah, I mean, my dad was given, he was put on palliative care in September of 2020. It's been over 5 years now of not knowing every time I go to Liverpool if it's going to be the last time I'll see him. And that is, it's hard. It's really fucking hard. It's horrible. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. And yeah, to do this, to create an artificial insecurity, uncertainty in people's lives so they can never settle, they can never relax. And that's what it is. You know, this is torture. This is fucking torture. You can never relax. You can never let your guard down because you know, and I know, that in this life, if you're not born rich, you can't make a single mistake. And for these people, if they fill a form out incorrectly, if they're late to their appointment after living here for 17 and a half years, they're 5 minutes late to their appointment to be reassessed. And that's it. They get deported. The children get deported, get ripped from their family, ripped from their friends, ripped from their community, ripped from their job. It's fucking torture. What did they do? What did they do to Taurus? No, not to Taurus. What was his name? Tantalus. Tantalus, the king. Tantalus. He had the gods round for dinner. one night, and he thought it'd be fun to bake his his son into a pie and feed it to the fucking gods, because the gods were not allowed to consume human flesh. Don't know why he did this. Mad fucker, obviously. So and the god said, "Fuck you, you motherfucker." Put him down into Tartarus, which was the lower levels of Hades. And his torture was that he would permanently be incredibly hungry, and there'd be all this food and drink just floating above his head, just out of reach. Tantalizingly out of reach. And that's why King Tantalus gives his name to something that is tantalizing. It's just out of reach. And that was the punishment the gods came up with for a guy who baked his son into a fucking pie. And made them eat him. And this is a punishment that our government is giving to genuine asylum seekers, genuine refugees. No. Just no. Martin Harris said, "We've had 4 days with my mum in hospital. Can't imagine what it's been like with your dad, Graham." Martin, and everyone, I think everyone I know has got a story about this kind of thing of just, and it's a horrible, horrible thing to say. It really is a horrible thing to say. But the not knowing is worse. No matter what it is, the not knowing is worse. It's just our human psychology. It's just the way we are. Everything about this country is uncertainty, be it migration or being disabled or not knowing if a lifeline is going to be taken away or renting off a landlord who can make you homeless. Yeah, Sarah. And that is something that the government should be doing everything in its power to give us back. Certainty. Certainty in our lives. Certainty that we're not going to have things taken away from us. Like our home, like our families. And obviously there are some uncertainties in life that you cannot do anything about. But the government's job is to keep us safe. That is it. That is his one prime fucking directive. It's not to make money for oil barons. Not to feather their own fucking nests. It's not to do some mad idealistic crusade, go and invade some other person's country and inflict democracy on them. That's not making us safer. We're humans. We crave certainty. The idea that that thing is going to be there. Why do you think people get fucking married? It's because we crave certainty. That person's still going to be there at the end of the day. They're not going to flounce off with somebody else, or at least they're not supposed to. And a government that isn't delivering certainty to anyone is not a government that's going to last, as we saw with the Tories. So I don't know how long you've been watching the channel, but this is a subject that's frequently discussed here. No one is trying to bury the subject. Yeah, I mean, if we talk about colonial crimes, I could sit here for the rest of the day and I will go through every fucking country that we invaded in alphabetical order and tell you the fucking crimes that we committed there. I genuinely will. Just let me get out me 50 copies of Lonely Planet and we'll go through the history sections. Britain's crimes in the past do not absolve it in any, shape or form from the situation that's happening right now. When I say that a lot of the stuff that's happening right now is because Wagner Group, so the Russians in Africa, they have stirred up shit all over Africa in about 24 different countries. They have stirred up shit. So we've got military juntas running these countries, or we've got instability, or we've had the old guard have been toppled and replaced with someone who's not necessarily better. And also climate change. That's happening now. So whereas the crimes of empire are definitely still a problem to this day, and underlie the fact that these countries are struggling. They're struggling because we went there and stole all their shit. And then we created supply lines, supply chains. We embedded companies, oil companies in countries in like Angola and which was Portuguese, and in Nigeria, which was British. These British companies, these Dutch sugar companies, American oil companies went in there and bribed all the local politicians, bribed all the national politicians in those countries to make sure that they could pump out as much oil as they could, destroying the Niger Delta, making it so that the people who live there, the fisher folk of Port Harcourt, can't fucking fish. And we gave those, they're our companies. They're Western companies going into other people's countries and fucking them up. Economically, environmentally, just absolutely fucking them up. And they're a legacy of empire as well. And there's a book called The Bottom Billion. And it talks about the fact that we talk about developing nations, but there are countries that, because of one reason or another, and then they're all former colonies, pretty much, nearly always. But these countries are stagnated. Their economies aren't growing. You can't call them developing countries because they're literally not developing. And this is a real issue, and there's a lot of factors going into it. But right here, right now, the big problem that we're facing is we have autocrats like Putin causing trouble around the world on purpose to create refugees, because they know the more refugees there are, the more people are going to vote for autocratic governments. You've also got the big oil companies that also want more refugees, so they're trying to accelerate climate change, make places uninhabitable. And then once those places are uninhabitable, we have more refugees because you can't stay somewhere that's uninhabitable. The clue's in the word uninhabitable. And as a result of that, we're going to see many more refugees coming into Europe. What happens with that? You get more autocratic governments who do autocratic governments like more wind turbines or big polluting oil refineries. Oh, it's got to be the oil refineries every time, isn't it? Because it's a good way to make a quick buck. A quick buck for a quick fuck. There you go. There you go. The UK was the most expansive, but not only the colonizers. France, Spain, Belgium, Russia, the Netherlands. Yeah, but I mean, all of them were fucking awful. One angry pagan. A sea of mods have descended. I didn't actually read what Ton had written there, but no, I'm definitely not trying to absolve Britain of any kind of responsibility for the crimes of the past. I've spoken about this on this channel a lot already. But I'm talking today about the crimes that I feel like the British government are committing now by trying to bring in these abhorrent policies. But here's the thing, right? I don't think this is going to get through. This has got to get through Parliament. Can you see the Labour backbenchers going for this? I think this is going to be like when they tried to go after Pip. I think all the Labour backbenchers are going to say, fuck this, and vote against it, or threaten to vote against it so they drop it, like they did with the Pip reform. Honestly, I think I'd be amazed. I'd be absolutely fucking amazed if my MP, Mary Foy, voted for this shit. So it's great, you got your proposals, but whether they actually translate into anything or not is another matter. He just wanted an argument. Well, I didn't want an argument. I agree. Britain should take responsibility, and we should be paying reparations. Although we'll call it investment, because otherwise, if we call it reparations, people in Britain will be like, "Oh, why are we paying money to these countries that we fucked up? Because we fucked them up, dickheads." But yeah, investment. I think there should be more onus on Britain to help countries, especially countries in the Commonwealth, countries that we had an historic tie to. Not Blue Labour. Well, Blue Labour will vote for it, but there's lots of backbenchers who aren't. We seem to be angry at the economic migrants. Just wait till the climate migrants come. Farage will have a field day. Well, exactly, Captain Coconut. That's what I'm saying. That the issues right now that are causing refugees are climate change is a huge part of that, and they know that's going to make more refugees in the future. And autocrats fucking love refugees. The more refugees you have trying to get into your country, the crueler you can be. So that that sides very well with their psychopathic tendencies, because they love cruelty. The cruelty is the point. We see this with voters for Farage and Brexit and Trump. They love to see the cruelty. They love to see it. They love performative cruelty. But also means people are more likely to vote for autocrats. It's a vicious circle, as we discussed at length yesterday. So yeah, I did a whole thing about immigrants yesterday and the reasons we should take them. And Lee Corn, thank you so much for the £5 super chat. Catching up at 2 times. I agree with whatever Graham is ranting about at this very moment. Thank you. Nick says, remember, many Commonwealth citizens in the UK backed Brexit in 2016 to make it easier for their own countrymen to come by removing European queue jumpers. Yeah, well, I mean, I found that insane that it's someone on a resident visa here in the UK from Tuvalu got a vote in, in that referendum. If you're a Commonwealth citizen, you could vote in that referendum. If you're registered to vote in this country. But if you were an EU citizen who had lived here for 50 fucking years, you weren't allowed to vote. Yeah. Miss Paula Thomas, thank you very much. £2. If the backbenchers stop this, then Starmer goes. Yeah. I think the vultures are circling. I'm not calling the backbenchers vultures. I'm just saying that they can smell death and political death. The Komodo dragon will bite its victim, and it's the largest venomous creature in the world. The Komodo dragon, and it then follows the water buffalo or whatever it's bitten for days, sometimes weeks, waiting for it to die, so it can then eat it. Yeah. So I think if the backbenchers unite against this stupid, cruel, unworkable policy, yeah, that's going to be the bite. That's going to be the bite. I wonder how long Starmer will hang on for. I can always be swayed by Graham's 2 times squeaky voice. Actually, the 2 times speed on YouTube doesn't necessarily make your voice go that much squeakier. Not like when you used to have a little tape player and you could put it on 2 times speed and people always really speak like this. Shabana's tweet about an hour ago has gone down well. Oh God, what's she tweeted now? Jesus. Okay. I'm trying to find her. I'm trying to find her thing. Her message. Mood tweets. What did she say? I'm just trying to look it up. All right, I'm on X. I can't see what a tweet is from today. The latest I've got is from. Oh, here we go. She's talking about dark forces. Yeah. I know this country is open, tolerant, and generous place, but the public also rightly expect that we can control our borders. Unless we act, we risk losing popular consent for having an asylum system at all. While today's measures will restore control to our borders, how? I will open new capped, safe and legal routes for genuine refugees. We want to provide sanctuary to those in danger. We want to be Greater Britain, not a little England. To do so, we must restore order and control. So there will be safe and legal routes, something that we've been crying out for a very long time, for genuine refugees. So I'd like to see more on this particular policy. I don't understand the rest. And I mean, Pranay in our chat today pointed out he's sick of seeing people who are, politicians like Priti Patel and Suella Braverman and Shabana Mahmood, who you would expect as children of immigrants to have a bit of love towards immigrants, but that's just not the case. But yeah, on Monday I will announce the most significant changes to our asylum system in modern times. I predict this is going to go down like a cup of cold sick, to be honest with you. She'll probably get to make deportations great again at some point. Jesus. Does 2 times Graham sound like a squeaky tank? Current betting odds on Bubba. The identity of Bubba. 3-2, Bill Clinton. 5-1, some monkey pulled off the street. 50-1, Mandelson with the Clinton mask. There was a rumor that it's about a horse. He might have sucked off a horse. Sounds like something Trump would do. Home Secretary is apparently laying out the plans in the House of Commons today. Graham, will you be covering it? I might do. We might do a watch party. I'll look into it, Gallifrey and Ren. I do have a bunch of shit to get on with today, but this is kind of important, and it might be, I don't know, this might be the beginning of the end of the current Labour front bench. I don't know. Camanola, smell death. I'm over here smelling the delicious pumpkin spice coffee I ordered all the way from New York City. Lovely cup while spending time with Graham and you guys. So you ordered a cup. Where are you? Do you order a cup of coffee? You better not be in Dorset. Could you imagine? I was like, I had this flown in from New York City. Brilliant. Dark Forces sounds mysterious. Yeah. Noshed off a horse, an Oasis album. Yeah, I think it is actually. It was their like 4th album on it, the one that no one bought. Let's go to the papers. Should we go to the papers? We've got the Fanny Times here, the Finny Times even. We've got the Warm Friends. Greece agrees Kyiv gas deal on the left. This is about a new deal, obviously, to provide Ukraine with very, very much needed natural gas supply for their energy needs, and energy infrastructure has taken an absolute punishing over the last few weeks from the Russians, who are trying to, as they do every winter, trying to knock out their energy supplies in order to, so that children, not all boomers, children freeze to death over, Ukrainian children freeze to death over the winter, because that's what the Russians want. Trump trade negotiator lashes out at Europe over delays in reducing tariff. The US officials warn goodwill is at risk. Goodwill. Trump. Goodwill. As a guy who slapped on tariffs to all these different countries. He slapped on a 50% tariff on Brazil, which doesn't have a trade deficit with America. Actually buys more stuff from America than it sells to America. But whatever. Yeah. 50% tariff on those motherfuckers. Yeah, goodwill hunting. So on the right here, we've got the Times. Gordon's Ramsay's kitchen nightmare. What next for his empire? Striking doctors hit the lowest so far, NHS bosses believe, on the Times here. First states face visa ban in migrant returns push. So this is a story about something else that I think Shabana Mahmood is going to be announcing today, which is this idea that if countries don't take failed asylum seekers back, then we're going to stop visas being issued to people from those countries to come to the UK, even for a holiday, even to visit. So the first ones are going to be Mauritania, they're going to be Democratic Republic of Congo, and they're going to be Namibia, right? Which is a kind of Angola, Namibia, and Democratic Republic of Congo are going to be the first countries that they're going to restrict visas from. Now, I don't know. Like, Angola's a very expensive country. It's very difficult to live there unless you're working for some fucking oil company or something. Namibia, that's kind of like a weird one to me. Like, that's old Southwest Africa, which is weird because it's northwest of South Africa. But there you go. But yes, that they're going to restrict visas. Okay, but here's the thing, right? The list of countries that they may restrict visas to in the future include Gabon, Somalia. Okay, I don't think too many tourists coming from Gabon, Somalia. Okay. Bangladesh. Oh, hang on, that might be an issue. Nigeria. Oh yeah, that'll definitely be an issue. Pakistan. Yep, definitely going to cause problems if we start restricting visas for people coming over from Pakistan. And India. India. Yeah, they're going to restrict visas for India if they don't take back refugees. Good luck with that. So yeah, this is a new plan by Labour. This is copying what they're doing in America, by the way. This is copying this isn't copying a refuck policy. This is copying a Trump policy. 3 in 4 people paying top rate tax don't feel rich. Okay. And then we've got Labour shakes up human rights law in bid to show small boats plan is credible. Which we talked about. Early release, a betrayal of victims' families, and absolute evil. Farmer hits out at government's rural policies. There's Liz Webster, friend of the channel, on the front cover of The Express. It's not great, is it? But there you go. She doesn't like the current government because they're going to take inheritance tax of farmers. New humiliation for Andrew. Get him off our islands. This is a story about the Falkland Islands have removed the name of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor from all of their plaques. All of their plaques that they had over there. We've also got the same picture of Demi Moore, looking radiant there, Demi Moore, on the front cover of the Telegraph. Take back migrants or face visa ban, which is something that I just discussed. Navy crippled as decrepit support ships stuck in port. The Royal Navy's decrepit support ships are stuck in port, severely limiting Britain's ability to fight a war. Hope there's no war, happening soon. Climate change anxiety could fuel drug use, Watchdog claims. Climate change could fuel drug use, according to governmental report. Yes, I think it probably will. And the queen of the desert, or whatever it is, the Priscilla over here, a woman called Kelly Brook. They want her to win. Okay, and then there's Rainer PM plot over here on the Daily Star, which is about the idea that Angela Rayner is gearing up to take on what's his name, Keir Starmer as leader of the Labour Party, apparently. But yeah, I just want to go into this here because you might not be able to see it very well. I'm trying to make it bigger. There's the times there. Oh, this is easier on my laptop. I can just zoom in on my laptop. I can't do it as easily here. I need like a trackpad or something. I wanted to go in on this story here because I don't know if you can read it very well, but it reads, "Is the BBC to blame for the death of Diana?" I think that's the most Telegraph headline of all time. Is the BBC to blame for the death of Diana? No. Okay, moving on. Rayner yet to pay 40,000 stamp duty bill. Okay, whatever. Epstein hidden links with the global right, and Reeves weighs fresh watchdog crackdown. And The Guardian here, there's an interview with Russell Tovey. There's also Alan Cummings plan to reignite theatre in the Scottish Highlands. And then we've got most sweeping reforms to asylum rules in a generation to be unveiled. Charities and Labour figures express alarm at toughening of policy. And call for urgent inquiry over child benefit errors. The government is facing calls for urgent independent inquiry after thousands of families restricted child benefit due to flawed Home Office travel data. Great. And then there's a woman who looks a bit weird, and she's had treatments, and she looks this good at 62. And then we've got Demi Moore there as well, being on the London premiere of a TV series. It's a TV show that she's in called Landsman or something. She's in a TV series. It's the second season. So they're having a premiere at the cinema. I don't know what's happening these days. The line between TV and cinema is getting increasingly blurry. Lawyers and Labour MPs torpedo Mahmoud's asylum plan. Home Secretary warned left-wing opposition will scupper crackdown on illegal migration. Yes, they will. I hate to say that the Mail is right for once, but the Mail is actually right for once in that. Kane scores twice as England beat Albania is in the front middle cover of the top middle cover of the newspaper here, which is really interesting. This is we had like quite an easy group. England, when I say we, I mean the England football team. Sorry to exclude my viewers from Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland, but yeah, the England team sailed through. They're qualifying. They played 8 games and they won 8 games. But even more impressive than that, they didn't concede a single goal. 8 games, didn't concede a single goal. That is really fucking impressive. Really like that. And then we have David Cameron, the unlikely villain. The unlikely villain, he looks like a villain. Why would he not be? Opinion. Who broke Britain? Well, yeah, he's massively important in breaking Britain. And inside the race to prepare for disease X, which when that strikes, I hope I'm not in America. Asylum seekers face 20-year wait to settle in UK as new protests held at migrant site. Home Secretary Shabina Mahmood is set to announce sweeping changes to human rights law and the asylum appeal process today in a major crackdown on illegal migration. Cruel to be kind, says the Metro. Home Secretary's moral mission to end crossings and save asylum system, but Labour's rebels prepare for battle as Tory mocks gimmick. And then that's it. We just got adverts for fucking Santa costumes. I don't know. I wasn't looking up Santa costumes last night. I don't know why they're trying to sell me that now. But at least it's one step up from Radiators. Anyone could beat a Sunday League team, says Daylight. Like Andorra. Haven't the wealthiest click that if immigration debate is tackled, then they risk losing their scapegoat? Yes, Chris C., which is why I want Labour to fix this. Now, the only glimmer of hope about all this is the fact that they are talking about safe legal routes, which weren't available before. That is good. Get those safe and legal routes set up. And that means that people won't have to come across on boats. They're saying they're going to be capped. Whatever. But that might be the only part of this bill that gets through. Everything else might be scuppered by the backbenchers, putting in amendments to neutralise whatever they try to do. I'm sure there's going to be members of the House of Lords who are up Labour peers, Green peers, Lib Dem peers, Blackpool peers, Brighton peers, Western Supermare peers, who are going to jump on this and rip it apart. And maybe the only thing left at the end of all this, once it tries to go through Parliament, is going to be safe and legal routes. I'll take that. Can we do without the cruelty? Can we do it without the fucking pulling out the gold teeth on the beach? Can we do it without the 2.5-year review to see if a country's safe or not? There you go. Nick says rejoiners need to be smarter when it comes to the immigration debate. Focus on restoring reciprocal freedom of movement with culturally similar Europe, and much easier to sell and less ammo for Farage. I don't know if it is. I talk to Brexiters and they still think they're right. They still think that the Brexit did nothing wrong. They're like a mother a doting mother whose son has been done for a horrific crime. They're like, not my son. And they'll make excuses for the little monster. That's Brexit, and they make excuses. They go, if it had been done properly, it wasn't done properly. If it had been done properly, then it would have been amazing. Yeah. But yeah, it's hard to get these people around. I think we're just gonna have to wait a few years until there's fewer of them, and then we can turn the tanker around. Goose Springsteen, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the £10 super chat. Hey, Graham, I'm late to the stream, but earlier you were talking about Dublin and a small boat. Small boat to response to lorry checking improving. If Dublin worked, the camps in France wouldn't exist. Well, it's not entirely... Yeah, Goose. People were... the lorry checks did improve, but not improve that well. I know someone who had a refugee coming over in the lorry. But at the same time, if people came across in small boats, we could take them straight back immediately. We can't do that anymore. So the immediacy is what I think changed things. And you can see for sure that in 2017, about 2 people came over in small boats, and then there was just an avalanche after that. Before it, in 2016, no one came over in a small boat. In 2015, no one came over in a small boat. And yeah, some of them would have come over in lorries, but at the same time, like the big change that, you know, signaled the start of all this nonsense was the leaving of Dublin. Yeah. £2 super chat from Andrew. Thank you. Graham has bills to pay. I do. Thank you so much, Andrew. That's very kind of you. And Goose says, thank you very much to the £5 super chat. No mention that under Dublin, Britain accepted more refugees than we deported. Yeah, but they weren't coming across in small boats. I mean, what you might want to do, right? Safe and legal routes, first of all. But also, yeah, make it easier for people to come across in lorries. Sort of take a few staff away so that people come across in lorries rather than come across in boats. Because then you don't have Nigel Farage standing on the white cliffs of Dover pointing at boats and going, bad! What's he going to do? Stop lorries? He's not, is he? Fucking Nigel Farage is going to stop a lorry coming across. He's going to do some personal checks to see if there's an asylum seeker. And also, when people see a group of people on a boat, it's quite visceral. Whereas mostly on these lorries, the people came across on lorries, that would just be like one person clinging to the back of it or something. Anyway, I need to get a move on, says Chris. Yes, get back to work, Chris. Well, thanks for your company this morning, mate. And I appreciate it. Have a great day. See Dizzy Dizzle says some of the policy would need to be put in place a bit more central on the issue. It's not I know it's not what everyone wants, but the divide is just bringing a reform government. Yeah, but safe and legal routes are a good way of solving this. And I'm not saying to just, you know, give every refugee who wants to come here or potential refugee come here. I'm not saying to give them a gold-plated palace and a cake when they arrive. Do you know what I mean? I think there's a sensible middle ground to be found here, but it has to start with safe and legal routes. That at the moment, the law is in this country that unless you're white or Chinese, you cannot claim asylum in this country without stepping foot on British soil. That's the rule. That's the stupid rule that makes all of this situation the way it is. So allow it. The people can start their refugee journey without actually having to journey across the Mediterranean, hike their way across Europe, and then get to Calais and then get in a small leaky boat on a journey that could end in their deaths. But yes, some of the policy would need to be put in a bit more central on the issue. Yeah, I've just read that. Karen says, wild trucks instead of lots of small boats. I didn't think of that history. Yeah, people did come across in boats. People did come across in lorries. But if they had already applied for asylum in Europe, they were caught. If they were caught and they had already applied for asylum in Europe and been turned down, we could get their fingerprints. We can't get their fingerprints anymore. We could deport them straight away. It's just not enough. It's literally what you're saying, legal routes. Yeah. You can apply illegally. And if you don't, we send you back to Calais. And you can sit there while you apply legally. And if your application is rejected and you still try and get over, we got your fingerprints. That's it. And if you try again, you get deported back to your original country. You don't get deported back to France. You get deported back to your original country and you have to pay for it. There's a fucking deterrent for you, eh? Graham, the totalizer is only showing 1 out of 10 and not counting super chats. Yeah, it's fucked. Sorry, Andrew. It's not working. The goal thing has been fucked for a few days now. I don't know what the problem is. I'll write to YouTube and say, why have you ruined the goal thing? That was fun. We miss our confetti. Diz is having confetti withdrawal. But yeah, when you go to set a goal, it's got like 3 different drop downs that you can look at, which are it's got goal amount, super chat colors that count, timer, and then share how you'll celebrate, which is an omni box that you type into. And yeah, nothing's coming up in the drop down. There's no words. Just can't see what it's supposed to say. Maybe it's I was just thinking maybe if I press Control A, no. Even if I press Control A, it's not. I thought maybe the text is black and the background's black. That sometimes happens, and you press Control A and it highlights it, and that doesn't even work. Mills Paula Thomas, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Technically, our embassies are British oil. Yeah, technically, but in practical terms, it doesn't seem to be. But yeah, I mean, setting it up so that if you've got a British embassy or British High Commission, you have a system like when you apply for a visa, you turn up at the embassy, you get an appointment, you have to pay for your appointment. Your appointment is you turn up, you get your eyes scanned, you get your fingerprints taken, you get your details, you get your passport photocopied, you get your identity papers photocopied, and you start the process. That's it. You pay £1,000 and you start the process of claiming asylum in the UK. And if we say no, and you come across in a small boat, we instantly deport you back from whence you came. There you go. Goal counter is broken, lol, never mind. Yeah, I know, never mind. But thank you very much for the super chats that have come in anyway. And I'm sorry for the lack of confetti. I need to make a confetti animation, don't I? So I can just make it. I'll do that after the show. Okay, so I'm going to get going now. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm very, very, very disappointed in the Labour government today, more so than usual. What a ride. What a roller coaster, eh? Hope and despair. More despair than hope, though. This is ridiculous. The only good thing that I can see from this is the mentioning safe and legal routes. But if that's capped at like 10, then I can't see that as workable at all. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens, I guess. Is it most things? Anyway, Sarah says, bye, Graham. Bye, everyone. Bye, Sarah. So listen, have a great day, whatever you're up to. I'll be back again tonight at 9 o'clock for the for stateside, if I'm still awake. And until then, I'd also like to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the super chats. And please give us a like. Please give us a like on the way out. And if you're not subscribed, even if you don't want to join the chat, you can just subscribe. It really helps the channel, helps us get out there. So please consider just pressing the subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything. And also there is the option usually of being able to join the channel, and you'll get a rose after your name. You get your name at the end of the show at the credits, and you'll also get access to the wonderful Politics Social Discord server, which is basically this, but you get to continue it when I'm not streaming live. So yay. So until next time, thank you so much for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.